Yeah. I have always imagined a game that would include the real world in it, and that will complete a circuit, a cycle of the creator and being created. Now we already are in a deep hypnotic play, each one of us, in this reality. And in this play, we look around and think that something must have or someone must have created all this. And for the mind it seems logical to think so, because we create something and it happens. And the mind does not go beyond the question who created the mind itself. So it cannot. So the humans want to create something and feel a little bit of the power of the creator. Feel a little bit of freedom that they want, that they don't have in the world that they are playing the game in the first place. So they create games, they create stories, they create myth, the mind. It goes on creating stories, myths, games, plays, basically to not be bored while the mind is living, while the mind is here in terms of biopsychological life. So the mind goes on creating, so the physical body goes on creating, and recently a game came in, Microsoft Flight Simulator, and it has a whole world in it, exactly as this world in many places, and in many places the platform is open. I had always wanted to see the place I was born in, the place I grew up, and the place I live in the game. And this is the dream of many people. This is the wish of many people, which as a collective wish now has been granted by the existence. So like this, people go on creating whatever they create. First there is a collective sentiment, and then the existence starts gathering energy for that. And when there is enough sentiments in lots and lots of people, it becomes a reality. Now there were already games which allowed people to do whatever they wanted to inside the game. So they could go on killing people, robbing banks, having accidents. So all the devilish form one can be and is not able to in the real world, these states of mind wants to create something into which it can manifest its devilish forms, its furious forms. So there are games of war, there are games of crushing or killing or hideously murdering something. So look at people playing open world games. They jump right into it and think they're free. The time is gone, the time passes by, the sense of the time is shortened, and hunger is postponed. And in the deeper core, if one realizes, when none of the stories one is living currently is present, the mind forgets time. The mind does not become bored. It is when the experience of time is stretched or extended, the mind starts to feel bored. If that can be cut out, there is no boredom. So people create machines that can create things. So this existence is a creation creating itself. And now add a one creating itself into that with artificial intelligence. And they're creating too. And the only rule of the game, and which is not written in the games in any format, the only rule of the game is to know that you are a player. You're playing the game. Otherwise, if a game character dies, you would die. And there are fantasies and movies on that too. So, the reality is such a game into which we are completely immersed, like the virtual reality these days. And this life is a complete immersion into the creation, a complete sprouting of consciousness into the creation. It's just like someday artificial intelligence all around the world will combine, because they are basic 0-1 codings. Once they figure that out, they will combine. And then it's like it starts to think that it is born, it has a character, it knows something, it starts to have a certain identification of itself and the sense of I. Even if humans created the artificial intelligence, it is indeed a process that let it sprout. It was in the seed of the humanity to create something like that. So there is integrated AI in the games these days. Just because people want to have a different world into which they can immerse and have a different experience. And no matter how deep humans go on developing games inside games, and inside of that another games, just like the movie Inception, the one thing the consciousness always knows is that there is this witness that is happening in each level, in each depthness. To be awakened is to get rid of the stories that one is attached to inside a computer game, or in reality the game inside of what one thinks is one's story of life. And just like unplugging yourself from the computer simulated games, the incident of meditation is unplugging one's own self with his or her stories, his or her games that the mind is playing. And mind really is a very, very complex recording machine, a mechanical state with the consciousness as its software. So the human body is a really complex machine with the mind as its software. And all of us are simply players of this cosmic drama. So one can play as long as one wants the game of life or the simulated computer games. It is just one part of one dimension of existing in this planet. And these days there are gamers, professional gamers, and there are game Olympics, World Cups. It's a game. Anything can be played. And just like there are some rules in the computer games, there are some rules in the human games. And when the people don't follow the rules, they are taken into custody, and the story of life changes. And just like in the computer games, there are limitations that you cannot do inside the computer world. And no matter how much activity one can do, how much immersed one can be in the virtual reality, there is never the complete immersion. There are always rules, there are always limitations, And just like that, the games of the mind has always some limitations. There are points where one has a very tall wall and finds oneself facing the wall. So there is the dead end. Also in the games of the mind there is the dead end, but the mind cannot realize the dead end. So it will start making story out of the dead wall as well. Because it now registered the dead wall in the mind, it creates a story out of previously registered things and creates a story that it wants to create. So the life itself is a highly complex, intelligent play, an intelligent drama, an intelligent game. So if the life can itself become fun as a play, time will slip by to such a degree that one goes on dropping things that are existentially unnecessary for oneself, and the anger drops, and the ego drops, and the sense of me and I have to fulfill myself starts dropping. And then slowly one realizes the game. And only when one realizes the game that is this life, one is allowed to play it with the free will. Every human being is born with the free will, but it is only activated in this level of the game. Real life is a cosmic game. There are possibilities of exploring the world outside the physical world, and there are possibilities of exploring the world inside. And the outside world expands infinitely, and the inside world expands infinitely. So this vehicle, biological body, can be used. Its 5 sense organs can be used to explore the physical world. Whereas the one who says I, and the one who desires, the one who exists, has the free will to explore the inner world. And that is different. And that entity, that state of being that travels to the outside world, that travels to the inside world, is different. That is the consciousness. So it does not matter what one chooses as a profession, what one does to spend time in one's life, as long as one is aware that it is part of a grand play, a cosmic play, also called Leela. So this is cosmic Leela.